His name was Eli Hawthorne Grant, but for the past 40 years, everyone in the quiet town of Willow Creek, Vermont, had called him Eli. On the afternoon he turned 75, the 21st of June, the maple trees along Main Street shimmered in the summer heat, their leaves whispering secrets to the breeze that carried the scent of fresh cut hay from the fields beyond. The Victorian house he had inherited from his parents in 1985, the year after his wife Clara passed, stood at the corner of elm and pine, its wraparound porch sagging slightly, under the weight of time and untended wisteria vines. It was painted a faded butter yellow, with trim the color of dried lavender. A single American flag hung limp from the flagpole. Because Eli still believed in honoring the 4th of July, even if the parades had grown smaller and the fireworks were now just memories. Inside, the house smelled of pipe tobacco, old books, and the faint, lingering aroma of Clara's rosewater perfume that seemed embedded in the wallpaper. Eli woke late that morning, unusual for a man who had risen with the sun for most of his life. He lay under the patchwork quilt Clara had sewn from their children's outgrown clothes, listening to the familiar sounds, the tick of the grandfather clock in the hall, the distant hum of a lawnmower, the soft coo of mourning doves on the roof. He was 75 now. The number felt like a heavy coat he couldn't quite shrug off, warm but restrictive. He rose with effort, back aching, shoulders stiff from years of carpentry, and shuffled in slippers to the kitchen. He brewed coffee in the percolator that had been a wedding gift, strong and black, and sliced a piece of apple pie from the tin on the counter, baked the day before, the way Clara used to for his birthdays. He set it on a saucer with a fork that had belonged to his grandmother. He lit one match from the box by the stove and held it over the pie, pretending it was a candle. Then he closed his eyes, as he had done every year since Clara's death, and whispered the wish he had carried like a hidden stone. Let me find peace in the quiet this year. Let the days ahead be mine to shape. He blew out the match, smoke twisted upward like a forgotten prayer. Eli ate the pie at the kitchen table, gazing out at the backyard where the willow tree Clara had planted in 1970 still wept gracefully over the pond. Sunlight dappled the water. He watched a dragonfly skim the surface and smiled at its fleeting grace. He had outlived wars, winters, and most of his regrets. That was the afternoon everything shifted for the final time. The story of how Eli Grant came to claim his whispers at 75 begins, as most true tales do, decades earlier. He was born in 1950 in Burlington, Vermont, the only son of a mill worker and a seamstress who taught him that hard work was the only path to heaven. Eli learned young that responsibility was non-negotiable. He was a sturdy boy with calloused hands from chopping wood and a love for whittling small animals from scraps of pine. By 14, he had built his first birdhouse and sold it at the county fair for $2. At 20, he married Clara Beaumont, 19, fresh from nursing school with eyes like autumn, leaves, and a laugh that made him believe in miracles. They wed in the Baptist church with $57 saved, and the faith that love could weather any storm. It nearly did. Eli apprenticed as a carpenter, building homes for the growing suburbs. Clara worked nights at the hospital. The children arrived like blessings. Matthew in 72, Lydia in 74, Benjamin in 77, and little Grace in 81. When Eli was 31, and already feeling the weight of providing, he adored them deeply. He also vanished into their needs. There's a snapshot from 1983. Eli at 33, hair still thick and brown, hammering a nail into the frame of the treehouse he was building in the backyard. Matthew clings to his leg, begging for a turn with the hammer. Lydia pulls on his shirt sleeve for a snack. Benjamin cries from the sandbox where he's skinned his knee. Grace babbles from her playpen. Clara is in the background, hanging laundry, one hand on her hip, smiling at the chaos. Eli's face is focused, determined, as if he's building not just a treehouse, but a fortress against the world. Clara died on a rainy Thursday in April 1984. She was 33. Cancer, the aggressive kind that stole her in 6 months. The irony stung. She had nursed so many through illness, but couldn't save herself. The children were young. Matthew 12, Lydia 10, Benjamin 7, Grace 3. The funeral was somber. The town rallied. Eli wore his only suit and stood rigid as people murmured condolences and praised Clara's kindness. He wanted to roar that he knew her light better than anyone, that he had spent 14 years basking in it, and now he was left in shadow, with 4 children who looked at him with eyes full of questions he couldn't answer. Instead, he nodded thanks and served ham sandwiches in the church hall. The will was simple. Everything to Eli for the children. The house was theirs, mortgage half paid. Savings modest, life insurance enough to breathe for a year. He raised them alone, or as alone as a man in a small town can be. Neighbors helped with meals. Aunts took the girls shopping. But Eli was the anchor. He worked double shifts, building kitchens and porches. He learned to braid hair, pack lunches, soothe nightmares. He drove to soccer games, parent-teacher conferences, dance recitals. He was there for first bikes, first heartbreaks, first graduations. The children grew. Matthew became a mechanic, married young to Sophie with twins on the way. Lydia studied art, moved to Boston, sent sketches of cityscapes. Benjamin joined the army, deployed twice, came home quieter. Grace, the baby, went to college on scholarships, became a teacher like her mother. They called him Dad, then Pop, then Grandpa. They promised visits that turned into holidays only. Eli learned to exist on the periphery. He became the reliable grandfather, the fix-it father, the steady presence. He kept the spare rooms ready with fresh linens and toys that evolved. Rattles to board games to video. Consoles he puzzled over. He stocked the pantry with Clara's recipes. Meatloaf, apple pie, oatmeal cookies, chewy as hugs. He drove through snowstorms to babysit so kids could work. He loaned tools and time when Matthew's garage struggled. He flew to Boston when Lydia divorced, staying in her tiny apartment, sleeping on a lumpy futon. He hosted every holiday, cooking for 15, 20, while others chatted and watched football. He told himself this was fatherhood. This was love. He believed lies for too long, but gradually he carved small freedoms. It began with tiny acts of defiance. He stopped jumping at every call after 8 p.m. unless it was urgent. Their code, 3 rings. The first ignored call left him anxious, but peace followed like a deep breath. He bought a fishing rod and learned to cast alone at dawn, the line slicing silence. He joined a woodworking club led by old Mr. Harlan, who taught him to carve figures with soul. He read histories he had postponed, some too radical for his generation. He hummed folk songs while sanding wood, feet-tapping rhythms Clara would have danced to. He traveled, first to the Adirondacks, then Scotland, walking moors alone, weeping for lost years. He spent a month in New Mexico with retirees who shared stories around campfires, never questioning his solitude. He turned 60, 65, 70, visits rarer, calls briefer, texts emojis over sentences. Grandchildren grew into strangers' orbits. Matthew's twins were in college. Lydia had a gallery show. Benjamin settled in Texas. Grace had 2 kids busy with school. They loved him, he knew. They didn't need him. That's when he began to breathe. At 75, Eli rose each day surprised by joy and solitude. His rituals were his own. Coffee on the porch, watching mist rise from the pond. Long walks with his whittled walking stick. Tuesday steak, medium, and bourbon. Doctors nod to age. Saturday blues on the old radio, loud enough to echo. Carving by the Willow, seeking shapes in wood. He filled the house with his creations. Bookshelves bowed with tomes, carvings lining mantels, jars of feathers glowing in light, tools organized in drawers. Only one photo on the wall, Eli at 73, snapped by a hiker near the Willow. He's smiling softly, gray hair tousled, in a flannel shirt red as maple leaves. The man looks like he's heard his own whispers and answered. That was the life interrupted on June 21st, his 75 birthday afternoon. He had finished the pie and was washing the saucer when tires crunched on the driveway. Multiple cars, doors opening, voices, grandkids complaining about heat. Eli wiped hands on his apron and went to the door in slippers. He opened to an onslaught. Matthew, 53, burly, authoritative, on the steps with oversized bags. Sophie hauled a picnic basket. Their son Alex, 20, college break, filmed on his phone. Lydia next with art supplies clinking. Her partner Jamie carried groceries. Their daughter, Zoe, 18, pierced, opinionated, unloaded from the SUV. Benjamin flew in, duffel over shoulder, tools inside, always prepared. His wife Maria held a cooler. Their kids, Mia and Carlos, 12 and 10, raced to the pond. Grace, 44, polished, was already inside, setting a designer bag on the table. Noise erupted. Hellos, drive gripes, Wi-Fi queries, Mia shrieking at a frog. Matthew saw Eli, grinned like the boy who broke windows. Happy birthday, Pop, he thundered, dropping bags with a boom. Surprise! Whole family's here for the big 7-5. He hugged, but Eli stiffened, arms down. Grace air-kissed. Couldn't let you alone on your day. Just a week or two, gone by July 4th. Eli saw the living room, coats on chairs, shoes tracking dirt, AirPods on the table. Kitchen, Jamie opening cabinets for glasses. Lydia met his gaze, shook her head slightly, tried to warn them. Something in Eli, coiled since 1950, since his father said men provide always, unwound. No, he said. Quiet, firm like carving wood. Silence didn't come instantly. It rippled through. Matthew chuckled. Pop, we came far. No, Eli echoed, savoring it. This is my home. You can't invade with bags and kids and plans. Call first, ask, even then no. Grace's smile slipped. Dad, reasonable? No hotels free for summer, family. Family, Eli nodded. Made me dutiful for 74 years. Done. Benjamin mediated. Dad, birthday, togetherness. You want convenience, Eli softened. Difference. Sophie teared. Zoe pleaded. Kids joked. Lydia silent, eyes proud. Matthew erupted, always first. Grievances listed. Money loaned. Holidays hosted. Babysitting to keep busy. Nothing else on. Grateful at his age, Selfish said 15 times. Eli counted. He stayed calm in doorway, slippers, worn shirt, repeating, my home. Love you, but no. Should have asked. Earned this. Won't share unwillingly. 58 minutes. Clock timed. Bags repacked angrily. Feathers jar knocked, scattering. Grace's scarf left on banister. Last, Lydia, on porch, breath warm. Proud, Dad, sorry not sooner. Eli touched her arm. You saw first, enough. She left. Cars departed, dust rising. House sighed. Eli closed door, leaned, felt 75 years settle peacefully. No tears. Space opened, vast as the pond. Rest of birthday his way? Apple pie dinner with whiskey saved. Long bath, history book balanced. Sang Dylan in boxers, windows open. Carved till midnight. Willow figure, graceful, free. Slept center bed, starfished, dreamed of whispers. Aftermath chaotic. Family chat, Grant gathering, buzzed 378 messages day one. Tears, blame, quotes on filial duty, articles on senior isolation. GoFundMe, aid Grandpa Eli post-family crisis, raised $2,800 before. Lydia nuked it with boundary rant. Eli raid 5, flipped phone, unplugged line. He lived. Bought orchid blooming purple for solstice. Ate cheese, fruit dinners. Hiked trails with new boots, unused years. Joined virtual carving forum. Chatted till dawn with Canadians calling him mate. Buzz. No questions on aloneness. Turned spare room workshop. Bed shrouded, closets, tools, and wood. Fall arrived crisp. Leaves turned willow golden. October letter, Lydia's script. Dad, rethinking selfless. You showed giving endlessly. Maybe wrong. Love means space for self. Thanks for pain lesson. Best gift? Love. Loot. Week later, Matthew alone. Text forewarning. Can come afternoon. Solo. Eli brewed tea. Porch. Watched leaves fall. Matthew wept ugly like boy losing pet. Awful us. Wanted old you. But knew you good, Dad. Talked till dusk. Left with carving, pawn scene, deep blues, and call promise. Others followed over months. Benjamin brought handmade shelf. Oak, plain. Understanding simplicity. Grace with fine tea, apologies tearful, stayed 2 hours. Grandkids chose, Alex learned whittling. Mia held baby sibling, no photos. Twins asked Clara stories, time now valued. Some bonds mended bent, some fractured. Eli slept sound. Turned 76, 7, 8 with chosen vets, small groups, solo or none but Willow and Heart. Self-published Whispers in Wood, Carvings and Tales. Sold 248, local shops, 1 museum. Guest room ready, but invited only. Linens fresh, quilt from Clara's dresses, soft mercy. Closet wood and dreams. Evenings he sits under willow, light fading, first star. If asked why no stay that day, Eli smiles wise. Love isn't endless debt. It's door you close when needed. Open when ready, wide as wished. Closed once, June afternoon, to fling wide rest of days. To one waiting patient. Me, Eli Grant's tale. Quiet uprising at 75 with bags. Feathers, match-blown solo. Word long-awaited scenes regret. No. Say it, any age? Life on hold waits, patient as willow. Soft as dusk, to guide home to you. I promise.